Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you and wherever you are in the world today. We are very happy that you are with us. Please feel free to say hello in the chat and to let us know where you are joining from. And for all of you with us today, you are very likely in charge of or actively involved in making a big difference in the young learners' lives that we all support, and we're honored to have you with us. Hello, everyone. My name is Andy Schaefer. I'm president of Defined, and on behalf of our organization, I want to welcome you to part two of the symposium, Deeper Learning, Lasting Impact, Transforming Education for Tomorrow's Workforce. Today, we are fortunate enough to hear from two great partner districts, Birmingham City Schools and Montgomery Public Schools, both from Alabama, and to hear from several great innovative leaders shown on the screen, sharing their stories along their journey. We greatly appreciate Dr. Pelton, Ms. Kennard, Dr. Williams, and Dr. Sullivan for being with us and sharing their wisdom and valuable time with us today. It is also my great honor to introduce our host for today, who will be guiding us through all three parts of our symposium, part two being today. He is the perfect choice to lead today's session, having been a successful superintendent in multiple school districts where he led ambitious district-wide efforts to strengthen academic pathways, expand career-connected learning opportunities, deepen student belonging, and dismantle inequitable systems. He has also authored multiple books, and the QR code on the screen will lead you to more information on his most recent publication, Roaches in My Cereal, and the Moral Imperative to Reimagine School. Please say hello to our superintendent in residence, Dr. Melvin Brown, and thanks again to all of you for being with us today.
Andy, thank you so much for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you this afternoon to talk about this incredible work that is going on in some of our partner districts. As Andy mentioned, I currently serve as superintendent in residence at Defined, and I've spent my entire career working alongside districts as a superintendent, district leader, and an instructional partner focused on one essential core question. How do we build systems that consistently deliver high quality instruction for every single student? The work I care about most, and the reason I'm excited about today, is not about the tools or the initiatives. Those things are important. We have to implement those things well. However, this is about instructional leadership. This is about how leaders create clarity and coherence and conditions that allow great teaching to happen at scale. Today's session is designed as a leadership conversation. You'll hear from districts who are doing this work thoughtfully and intentionally, not perfectly, but purposefully. Rather than hearing about districts, you're going to hear from districts. Birmingham City Schools and Montgomery Public Schools will be presenting their own instructional leadership journeys, sharing what they've learned, what's working, and what they continue to refine. Our role as leaders today is to listen, to reflect, and consider what these stories surface in our own systems and how we think about the work we do in our own places. Today, we're going to begin with Birmingham City Schools, where you hear about how this district has built strong mid-year momentum through coherent instructional priorities, cross-curricular project-based learning, and a focus on authentic student work as evidence of instructional quality. Following Birmingham, we'll turn to Montgomery Public Schools, where you'll hear about distributed leadership, particularly through teacher leaders and key support roles that has driven deeper, more consistent instructional implementation aligned with standards and their portrait of a graduate. Both districts are at different points in their journey, but they share a common commitment, leading instruction intentionally and not incidentally. That's the important part of today. As we start, let's talk about some purposes and norms, how we do our work, how we facilitate through this conversation. That purpose is threefold today. One, to surface instructional progress. Two, to name leadership moves that are driving the impact. And three, to identify what's next. This is not a presentation-heavy session. It's a shared leadership conversation, and we'll prioritize honesty, systems thinking, and classroom impact. So as we get ready to start, I'm excited to start this process today. We're going to talk, before we turn to our district spotlights, I want to ground us in how we think about this momentum. Engagement data, usage, participation, artifacts, all those things, those aren't goals. Those are signals. They tell us something about leadership clarity, role alignment, and whether instruction feels relevant to teachers and students. That's where the real work starts. So We're excited to welcome and begin with Birmingham City Schools. What you'll hear is just not about outcomes, but about the leadership decisions and instructional coherence behind those outcomes. I'd like to invite Birmingham City Schools team to walk us through this story.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Brown, as well as Defined Learning. You know, for us in Birmingham City Schools, I guess our journey starts coming out of the pandemic. I became superintendent in the spring of 2020, and one of the things that we quickly became aware of, or quickly wanted to address, was learning loss and unfinished learning. We were virtual for most of the pandemic because of the percentage of people who were positive in our local area. And so we knew that if we did that, that there would be consequences academically for students. And so I wanted to identify a partner organization that could really work with us around ensuring that students were actively engaged in their learning, right? And so I went to a conference, and I came back to my team and said, hey, we got to get defined learning. And I think I may have pushed on Dr. Williams, who is our academic officer, a couple of times and said, have you made the call? Have you made the call? And so what we did was, and Dr. Williams is going to go a little bit deeper into it, but what we did was we did a pilot program with some of our elementary schools just to kind of get an idea whether this is something that we can bring up to scale. Because our district, we have about 20,000 students in our district, and anything that we implement, we don't want to just have pockets of excellence. We want to have systems in place that ensure that all students get high quality instruction. And we want to bring that to scale across all of our 43 campuses. So just a kind of a snapshot of what our district looks like. Dr. Williams, you want to advance the slide? So we have 9 board members. I have nine board members. They are elected by district. And the odd thing about Birmingham is that they're all elected at the same time. So that means I could possibly have a brand new 9-member board. So we just recently had elections, and we have 2 new board members. District 8 is Mr. Womack, and District 9, Mrs. Foy, and then our other board members are returning. So they understand the work, they understand the why of what we do, and I think it helps us to drive forward when we all have our board on board and understanding the why of student engagement. We have, go ahead, Doc. We have, as I mentioned, we have 20,000, a little over 20,000 students. We have 20 elementary schools, 7 K through 8 schools, 8 middle schools, 7 high schools, and 1 virtual school. We are a district that is roughly around 87% free or reduced lunch, and roughly around 11% EL. So we are a high poverty Black and brown school system, which does not mean that we cannot be a high achieving school system. And that's our goal, is to increase academic opportunities for students all along their journey, whether that be elementary, middle, and high school. All right, Doc. And I'm going to ask Dr. Williams if she would talk a little bit about our journey. As I mentioned, we started as a pilot program. We saw some great results, and then we expanded our work to include other additional schools. And now I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Academic and Accountability Officer, Dr. Pamela Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Dr. Sullivan is correct. He did nudge me a couple of times to look into the program. And when we finally had an opportunity to look into it, we realized this was one of the things that we had been looking for. Birmingham City Schools, we were, like Dr. Sullivan said, coming out of the pandemic. We were changing the way we were teaching and learning. We were putting systems in place for solid frameworks for ELA and math, science instruction. But we knew student engagement was a tremendous piece of the puzzle that we needed to conquer. So we, like you said, we started with the pilot. It was very small, and then we rolled it out to all K-5 and K-8 schools. Now we're in a new phase where we're targeting integration of PBL and social studies and science. So even though it may look like we're streamlining, we're actually going deeper, as Dr. Brown shared earlier, because we really want to make sure that this is really solid learning for our students' engagement, but learning that they can transfer on up to middle, high school, and beyond Birmingham City Schools. So challenges we did have several challenges. We knew student engagement was huge. If we were going to create the type of learning in our classrooms, the type of learning, the work that students did had to be engaging. It had to be real world. Digital literacy coming out of the pandemic, that's when we learned that our students had not had the access to digital resources as other students. So we knew we had to bring our students up in the area of digital literacy. Then there were state mandates. Our state required all students to have a computer science course, whether in middle, high school, and even computer literacy in elementary school. So when we looked into defined learning, they checked all the boxes. And then we face a final challenge now is time and integration of professional learning. One of the things we realized quickly, if our teachers weren't knowledgeable of the program, they're not going to integrate it. So we decided to integrate the program into our curriculum guides, and it's strategically placed where content aligns to the problem that they're solving using the content. So how does that look? I'm glad you asked. So what we did was we had a district-wide showcase in the spring of 2024. We asked all of our elementary schools to participate. In that showcase, they had to compete in a challenge. It was called a book bag challenge. And this was a strategic integration of defined learning because we had started the pilot and teachers were using it, but we knew we had to get it full scale. So every school had to participate and they had to submit a video. We're going to share a couple of our videos because what we learned was it was more about the engagement and the content that students were learning that actually related to what Dr. Sullivan said initially. We needed more after the pandemic. So let me show you one of our challenges. Every student had to work in groups. So first of all, they got the collaborative learning. They had to design a backpack according to dimensions that were given in the problem that was shared through defined learning. The teachers had to support them by facilitating different dimensions of the backpack. They had to have a purpose for the backpack. They also had to do a media clip for the backpack to advertise the backpack. And they had to have a purpose of the backpack. And some of our schools even brought in community partners to help them with their backpacks. So it covered all the areas. And so with the showcase, they actually voted, and these were the top 3 winners based on the showcase. So Defined Learning helped our K-5 students really look into areas of architecture, design. We had one group to create a shelf pack. And so those were things that we were able to do using the design challenge. So let's look at year 1 versus year 2. Initially, we did start with 26 schools because by the end of the year, we were able to get our middle schools on. But what's interesting is you notice we had 3,000 total users that first year. And now we're looking at this year, we're only at 946 users. So I delved deeper into that 946. Those were mainly our teachers. Because we've integrated the program into our curriculum, teachers are using it to facilitate whole class learning, going back to that deeper learning. So it may look like the engagements are not as broad as it was the first year, but they're actually more integrated into the curriculum. The same with the total engagements at the end. Now, and also, a lot of those users were during our intersession. Dr. Sullivan created what we call intersession. When students are out for a week, we have a fall and a spring intersession. So our next intersession is not till February. So we anticipate that those numbers will not only increase, but they may double or triple by the end of February. Did we learn anything? We learned a lot. We learned to start small. Make sure you have a clear plan. That's what Define did for us. They work with us on a monthly basis to help provide professional learning for our staff and our teachers. They helped us create a professional plan that we can integrate into our curriculum. They help us match the content with the standards. That was so important. Again, the professional learning is essential. If we don't provide opportunities for teachers to learn how to use the program, they're not going to use it. So that was very helpful. And then the student ownership engagement. The videos allowed the students to take ownership of their learning. They were excited to share their projects. We had kids sharing their projects all over the neighborhood and in the schools, so that they began to own their learning. And then the alignment. Did you want to say something, Dr. Sullivan?
No, I was going to say yes. They did. They were very proud of the work that they did, and they were truly engaged in the academic outcomes that the teachers had identified for those lessons.
That's right. And then the alignment. We wanted to make sure it aligned to our strategic plan, our district goals, and defined partners work with us to do that. So where are we going? We're going to continue to align to middle school. There are some new features in the defined curriculum that we are excited to integrate this spring. Our middle school students will be conducting virtual interviews, and I know they will be doing internships, as that is part of our portrait of a graduate this year. So we're going to strengthen that vertical collaboration between 5th to 6th and 6th to 7th, ensuring that what experiences that occur in 5th grade are deepened by the time they're in 7th grade. We're going to continue to invest in that professional learning, because as teachers learn how to integrate the products and the curriculum in their classroom, we imagine that student engagement will increase and student learning will increase. And then continue to anchor to district priorities. One thing that Dr. Sullivan is very clear on: without a plan, we're not going to be successful. So we align every initiative to our district strategic plan. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Brown, we always end Birmingham City Schools with what, Pam?
Success starts here.
Birmingham City Schools, success starts here.
So I'm going to keep you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
So hold tight. So thinking about the spotlight, what we've shared, the whole notion of how we can engage kids. We spend a lot of time looking at test data and making decisions about the black and white of what we see on paper. What really moves the needle is how we engage kids. If you really want your district to have improvement, your kids need to be engaged in the work. Here you see incredible mid-year engagement surpassing what they did last spring. That's a key component toward having instructional improvement. It reflects intentional leadership that's not isolated. It's about enthusiasm and getting everybody involved in the work. And Dr. Sullivan talking about his kids sharing their work outside of school. That's when we know it's real. That's when it matters to them, when they can show it in those instances. And having clear expectations for the instruction, the use of that instruction. Well, thank you so much for grounding us in the why of that momentum. Really quick question I'm going to throw out. What leadership moves to you stood out as contributors to your progress in this work?
So I think over the last few years, we have seen some success, and a lot of the naysayers become smaller and smaller and smaller the more and more you see success. And when students are actively engaged in learning, they demand more, right? And so they demand more of the teachers, they demand more of the principals, demand more of the schools, demand more of us. And so we that's one of the shifts that we're seeing. And I would also say that, a byproduct of student engagement is increased attendance, right? And so we've seen our chronic absenteeism go down tremendously over the past few years by engaging students in active learning activities. It's project-based learning. It really gives students a reason why they want to come to school.
I'm going to echo that so people understand exactly what you're saying. Getting kids in the building is not about test preparation. It's not about killing and drilling them to get ready for a test. It's about making school more palatable for them to come into and feel like it's a space they belong and they're excited to be in. That's what that's about. Let's move on. Next slide really quick. Looking at the whole district as a whole in terms of implementation, this can't be episodic work. This has to be strategic. It has to be across the board, and it has to be a part of the culture of what the school district looks like. Here in Birmingham, you see a district-wide focus among K through 8 in terms of what their priorities look like in digital literacy, computational thinking, and authentic reading and writing. PBL is not an episode. It's not a thing to do. It's part of the work. It's integral to the work, and that's what's so important. Thank you so much for adding that. What's powerful here to me is the fact that you're not necessarily narrowing the focus. You are expanding your focus and making sure more pieces are available to kids and they can participate in that regard. One other question I wanted to ask was, how has this coherence supported teachers in delivering high quality instruction in classrooms every day?
I just want to add, well, because the high quality instruction is it really helps them to really look at what they're teaching and making sure that it aligns to the standards with the digital literacy, the computational thinking. All of those things are very integral in helping with student engagement. If students are not happy about what they're learning, their quality of instruction is not going to be good because they won't transfer. And just to add to the piece earlier, one of the things that we also did was our networks really owned this work. We are divided in networks in Birmingham City. And so the K-5, our district K-5 schools in network 1 and 2 and 3, they really own this work and they took the lead on the work. So they actually made sure their schools participated. And that you can't have success if the people who are doing the work don't own the work. So I think that does contribute to that and really the narrowing of the focus because everybody knows what the goal is.
Excellent. As you shift over to how you've elevated your quality through your artifacts, you see kids producing products that actually they use in classrooms, they share out in the school, they share in the community. Through use, it's evidence of their instructional prowess and what they're actually gaining, turning classroom instruction into real life context. With your district-wide challenges, the backpack boss, the toy designer, kids are having conversations about instruction. And you can't go into a lot of inner city schools in this country and say kids are having these kinds of conversations. So kudos to you for bringing those things off to the forefront. How do you feel that that artifact-driven work has changed what coaching and feedback look like across schools?
I know they're looking forward to the next challenge. They are, competition is a really game changer in a school system, and our schools are ready for the next competition. Our middle schools are getting ready for their competitions. So I feel like the artifacts, I think it not only helps students, but it helps teachers to think about real world learning. How are we connecting the math and the reading every day that they're learning to what they're going to need when they become adults and citizens and employees and employers. So we really want them to look at these artifacts as artifacts of true learning, real world application of how to add, how to read. And so I think it really changes teaching and learning. Like Dr. Sullivan said earlier, I would want to come to school when I know what I'm going to be learning, I can apply in a later experience.
So there for our attendees, you see that work being brought to fruition. You see a school district preparing kids not just to fill jobs in their community, but to prepare them for careers and being leaders in those organizations that they will be part of in those futures. That's what that's about. Real life learning in classrooms translated to real life context. Your long-term instructional vision comes very, very much to the surface in terms of custom catalogs, along with pacing, expanded CTE alignment, and a focus on sustainability and instructional quality over time. This is what vision looks like. It's not about just doing something on a given day in the classroom. It's about how that translates through the entire work throughout the long-term prognosis of what that school district looks like. Well, thank you so much for sharing not just what you're doing, but how you're protecting the work for the future and getting our kids ready for the next stage of their lives once they leave high school.
Hey, Dr. Brown, do you want me to jump in with a couple of questions from the
Sure.
group?
That'd be great.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm from Anastasia Jackson, comment, amazing work. Looking forward to learning more. My questions are, who approved the pilot from the beginning, and how was it structured? And also, who carried the risk ownership of this initiative?
So I approved it. I carried the risk ownership, and I gave it to my academic officer to implement. Because one of the things that I knew was that just visiting classrooms, tier one instruction wasn't where we needed it to be. Student engagement wasn't where we needed it to be. So we had to align the work across the district. And I really wanted to have something that was scalable because, we have pockets of excellence, right? But that doesn't move large groups of students. We need to have a standard of excellence that permeates across the district. So as superintendent, I carried the water, right? So if it failed, it failed. I took the ownership. And if it succeeded, it was Dr. Williams. So I hope that
And as
answers your
Dr.
question.
Sullivan say, team effort. I can't take the credit. Network one, we had our instructional superintendent wanted to do academic achievement. So when this came, when Dr. Sullivan brought it, I took it directly to her, and this instructional superintendent led the charge. So it was an alignment in vision from the superintendent to our network superintendents.
And for those who are listening, that's leadership. Thank you.
So another question from Mia Stroder, and this is about the showcase, which was obviously very exciting. Sorry if I missed it, but what was the duration of the showcase from beginning to and then to the voting process? So just a little bit maybe about how the showcase worked and how the projects were voted on.
So, we live in a state where we have statewide testing. So we knew that coming out of state testing, our students needed what we call not a break, but an opportunity to continue to learn. But we know it needed to be super, super fun. So our showcase was during the month of May, the entire month, and then the end of May, around the last week. That's when they had the district-wide showcase where they had to submit all of their videos to our district-wide coordinator for STEM, and she had a team of people to vet those videos, and she literally held a virtual showcase where you can log on, students across the district. We are a one-to-one district, so our classrooms, our students logged on and literally watched all of the videos. It was a very fun showcase. I really enjoyed it, and I knew then we would have to do this every year, and so we are doing them every year. The students are looking forward to them.
And just incredible to see the level of engagement and just how many participated and how excited people were. Thank you, Pam. Another question from Michael Nalton, and then this will be the last question. We'll move on to the next section. But what are your ongoing or what are your expectations for instructional use? I'll just leave it at that.
So we work with Defined to integrate the project-based learning activities in our curriculum. Every year we bring teachers in. We meet with them from, I think it's April to June, and we revise our curriculum guides, and that's in every content area. Since we purchased this program for K-8 district-wide, teachers are allowed to use any resources that we purchase to supplement the curriculum. And so teachers go in, they vet their standards, and they say, oh, this would go with this standard, or this would go. And then we align it. And then it's the district expectation that when we're teaching area and perimeter, we'll do a book bag challenge, or we'll do a PBL that focuses on area and perimeter. So the way that problem-based learning activities are in defined learning, they can easily align them to math, science, ELA, social studies standards. But our teachers actually vet, and like I said, Define gives us the standards that they're aligned to. And it's really a great opportunity for teachers to really customize the curriculum to the students that they're teaching. We really want our curriculum, our students to see themselves in the curriculum. The challenges or the activities that they choose should align with the students that are in the classroom.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. And back to you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sullivan, Dr. Williams. Thank you so much. We are proud of you, and we are just as proud to be a partner of yours in getting this work done. We're now going to shift over to Montgomery Public Schools, whose story highlights the power of distributed instructional leadership and intentional role alignment. I'll invite the Montgomery team to take us through their journey. Dr. Pelton, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Angie Pelton. Greetings from Montgomery, Alabama. We are similar to Birmingham City. We have 49 schools with 31 elementary schools, 9 middle schools, and 9 high schools. 10, and we have 10 of those that are magnet schools. We have a little over 25,000 students. 78% are economically disadvantaged. We have approximately 12% EL population and 12% that receives special services. So when we were thinking about how this looks in our district, we use the Rogers diffusion model of innovation here, which is math people would know, like the norm curve. So we use this strategically, meaning there are 5 different sections here, and you have to approach each section differently. For example, you got to get people on board. If you got to have your trailblazers, the ones that are just eager to do it, they're that's how you get things moving. So we started there with our trailblazers being our STEM teachers and the principals of 11 schools. And then we went on to train the principals of both elementary and secondary to help them understand project-based learning. After that, we kind of got the momentum going, and we had the STEM teachers going, but then we also had some lead teachers that we also brought in to train. And what we found, looking back, reflecting on how we started, we would not have just started with STEM teachers, because it kind of sent the message, not intentionally, but set the message that this only applies to science and math, which is not the case. This is authentic learning across all curricular areas. So that is something that, in retrospect, we would have done a little bit differently. So where we are now, we would say that we are ascending on the mainstream right now. We've definitely gone over the chasm. However, we've had change in leadership, and with change of leadership, of course, you have different priorities and different shifts. So we're going up the curve, but I wouldn't necessarily say that we're over the curve yet. But where we're focusing now is getting another group of lead teachers. We also focus on our teacher residency academy, which are our new teachers that are within their first 3 years are on certification, meaning they didn't receive traditional education courses. So they're working on foundational skills. So what a great time to introduce them to frameworks and helping them use project-based learning in their classroom. Of course, you always are going to have the group that, the reluctant group, they're only going to do it because they're told to do it. And of course, those that are on the resistance, which we always know that we have to approach those a little differently. So I would say, like I said, we're ascending up, but we are definitely not where we would like to be, but we can see the light at the end.
Yes, and we know that these reluctant ones right here really don't pick up the ball until they see some evidence. They want to see it actually working. And so that's where our teacher leaders came in. We felt like if we could get teacher leaders in the building and they were actually demonstrating and showing that it was working in their classrooms, then some of these reluctant ones would start to pick up. And so that's where our concentration really is now. So this year, our focus was more on those teacher leaders. And so we went from our trailblazers to a group that we felt was really high usage and using them. And so we tried to create that support network in the schools themselves. And so we did really deep dives with those teachers. We also picked up our library media specialists, because we felt like those were the hubs of the school, especially in elementary, and that they were kind of creating that bridge between the digital and the academia. And so we really did some training with them. We also brought in our middle school CTE teachers, trying to hone more in on that defined careers portion. We had done some training with our high school CTE, but we hadn't done any with the middle school CTE. And then also we brought in and trained our technology coordinators this year. So in our district, every school has a technology coordinator, and they do things such as troubleshoot computers and train teachers and do inventory. And so they were the perfect people to kind of be there to work on the platform itself and helping teachers on the platform, but also providing some training. So that was kind of where we went this year.
If you look at our current data, you can see we started in 2023. And you can obviously see the norm curve there, where you see where we're kind of ascending up now. But we have a high usage of engagement with both educators and students. And it is happening in all of our buildings. There are pockets of excellence, and we know we've got to do more than just that. But I think as we're moving forward, you see the defined careers is small, but I think that with our intentional focus on CTE, that we'll see a difference with the defined careers in the near future.
I also think it's really important that we have a magnet pathway in our district and we have a traditional pathway in our district, and we're building an IB pathway. But I like to point out that 3 of our top 6 schools are traditional schools. So we're not just really targeting those magnet schools, we are targeting those traditional schools. And we have 2 middle schools and a high school that are in our top 6. And so we're seeing really high usage in those traditional schools, which I think is really positive.
Ladies,
And
just
some
for
of our
the,
top
just for the sake of the
users.
conversation, for
Sorry.
those watching, can you give us a quick delineation between what is a magnet school and what is a traditional school?
Do you want to do that, Pelton?
You can go ahead.
Okay, so our magnet schools, we have our elementary, we have 4 magnet schools. We have one that's an IB pathway, an interbaccalaureate pathway, and then we have several, we have a pathway that's considered academic, and then we have a pathway that's considered art. So the kids, it's lottery based, and the students can apply for that and go into magnet. Otherwise, they go into their traditionally zoned schools.
Thank you so much.
Talking about magnet schools, we want to provide equitable opportunities for all students. So under our new leadership, we have some key initiatives. And one of the key initiatives is themed academies across our traditional schools, with some of those pathways being STEAM, health, social sciences, business, finance, and hospitality and tourism. We also have a virtual school, a K-12 virtual school, and we are transitioning from we're moving to a block schedule this upcoming year. So we are hoping that the more time with the block schedule will allow a deeper dive into defined careers and our project-based learning in other areas.
Yeah, I think this is an exciting time for PBL to really kind of hone in with those themed academies. So these are just our district vision and strategic focus. Not pretty basic, but we have student achievement. They're really honing in on the structured literacy and math acceleration. We, in the past, Defined Learning has done specific, in the platform, they can go in and choose curriculum aligned projects so that the teachers can go into MPS aligned projects. They're looking at aligning our math plan and our literacy plan so that we can hone in on those. In Alabama, there is a Literacy Act and a Numeracy Act that targets our lower levels and so that we can build those up. And so they're going to align those for us. We're also working with our TRA, which is our teachers that are non-certified, and hoping to retain more teachers. And so we have taken those and added them to our cohorts as well.
When we're looking at our school culture and attendance, we do have a high absenteeism rate in our district for both students and teachers. So we are hoping using more of the project-based learning and helping teachers and students see the direct connection to career pathways, that they would see the importance of being there. They see real life happening before them. And we also have focused some of our PDs on educator wellness, because we can go back to everything that we've learned about kids, that if your basic needs aren't being met, you can't move beyond that level. Well, the same is true for adults. And if their basic needs aren't being met, they're not coming to work. They're not providing the instruction that we need them. They don't have the excitement. So the more we can get teachers on board, the more students are going to want to come to school. So we're really hoping that that's going to be a focus. And also we're looking to build trust back in our community. There's been a lot of school issues, with not trusting our district. And we want to have more of a workforce pipeline and focusing more on our economic development needs. So how has this impacted our instruction? Well, we've used the Defined platform to really focus in on designing a lesson, the universal design of learning, helping teachers actually think with the end in mind, and helping them prepare lessons that allow all students access into instruction, making it differentiated or tiering it so everyone, all of our students are successful. And also we have our pacing guides that have certain projects that align with standards for teachers to do. And we do focus our professional learning on those certain projects.
Defined has been really great at training our teachers on the GRASS framework, which is going to walk them through making them relevant to real world tasks. And also we're linking them to career pathways and linking them to stakeholders in our community, which ties into, these are two of our projects that were done at Bear Elementary. So Bear Elementary Exploratory Magnet is one of our elementary schools, and it's one of our magnet schools. The one on the bottom was a supply kit project. And so the students they had $1,000. And this is a third grade class. They had to create and come up with a list of supplies, and it had to be able to meet a demand of 25 units. And so they had to come up with the supplies and how much they would be. And then when they were done, the teacher brought in one of the parents who was a bank teller in town. So it was a way for them to tie in a community job and a bank in town and kind of pull those stakeholders in. The students even at one point had a spreadsheet with running totals so that they could add it in. She said that it really tied in things really well. We've also seen some really good application of AI. And when we first started this, AI was brand new and people were just beginning to use it. But we've really changed our approach to AI. So it's no longer just the introduction of AI, it's the actual skills behind AI. So we've gone from just showing them how to use AI to actually teaching them how to use prompt skills and how to put in the prompts and change the prompts to get what they're wanting, how to navigate the AI ethics, where they're learning how to visualize their information. And Pelton's going to tell you about the activity.
So in the professional development, they actually had to design an aquarium and based on a location. One group did the Montgomery airport, and it had to include things in the city that represented our city of Montgomery. We also had a group here that did a dentist's office, and you see right here where the math is all over the place with the parameter. You see the volume where they had to, and they put a big tooth in it, but then they put all of their information into AI to create you can see here, create the aquarium. So with AI, people are really scared, like kids are cheating. Well, no, it's the way of life. We all are asking Siri and Alexa and Gemini, and we're all asking those things. It's just about teaching students the critical thinking skills of using the prompts. You put one thing in, well, how do you go deeper? And I think with teaching them how to use AI properly allows them to not spend as much time brainstorming, but moving beyond that to deeper levels of learning. So that's what we're really focusing in on AI.
Mm-hmm. And I know one of the things that we've had comments from teachers is they really thought it was going to take up a lot of time in their class. And when they were able to go through and be trained on it and do one project in a short amount of time, they were able to see that they could incorporate it in class in shorter amount of periods and do them more often if need be. One of the great ways that we've seen it be used in class, this is another teacher at Bayer, and hopefully our sound will work. We're going to see, and I'm going to let him show you what he did.
So they were the CEO of
Can y'all hear? Okay.
a backpack company, and I kind of tailored it to Bear. So I told them to create a new unique backpack for elementary students, but it had to be connected to Bear some way, whether it had a Bear logo on it or our school colors. And for them to be able to take their prototype, take their drawing, and then type in the AI prompt and see what the result is, that was amazing in itself. It really helped to just bring what they're doing to life so that they can see, hey, I can create something and it can actually be a product that people can buy. That's pretty cool.
So you can see here that his students did the project and they were real excited about the project, but then they took their prompts and put it in AI and actually got to see what their backpack would have looked like because they didn't actually have time to create the backpacks in class. So this is just a small instance of what could be done with it and using AI at the end so the students actually get the visualization of the project afterwards.
So, of course, we believe in data-driven decision making. So we had a third party, Defined helps us with the research from media, who we actually looked at the implementation in the classrooms, what the students were doing and what their perception and teacher perception and also usage. What we found is that the majority of the students enjoyed the projects. They felt part of a group. They actually liked it, and they were more engaged in the content. As far as teachers, they liked the agency, the student focused instruction, and also the collaboration that was happening. What the research also suggested is that we need to have more job embedded professional development for our teachers and allow them time to work cross curricular so they can work better as a team instead of in silos in their content. So we're really excited about moving forward and continuing because we know that if we're collecting data, we're biased because we want it to work. So that's why we decided to use the third party. So our next steps, we think project-based learning and the career readiness will be in our themed academies. We'll see a lot more usage there. Of course, with our IB, project-based learning falls right along with it. And our district math and literacy focus, we're helping them embed more of the PBL in there. And investing in our educators, meaning we have a high teacher turnover rate, but if we looking in our district, we know we need to prioritize their wellness, but also support them in actually using project-based learning, more coaching in the classroom and helping them actually see other teachers, maybe in other schools where they can model and see how it looks in other classrooms. And we know that we want to focus, we have strengthened our partnership with Trenton State so we can have more credentialed students and increasing our dual enrollment. So questions?
Thank you so much. Great job of sharing what that looks like. We're talking about check so many boxes. The community investment, the use of AI and how that shows up, taking those backpack projects now to the next level, connecting a business piece where they actually produce those and sell them. Great concepts. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll get the other slides up and keep going. Were there any questions I may have missed in the chat?
I've got just two quick ones, Dr. Brown. One, what do you credit your high levels of engagement and utilization to? Is there one thing?
The engagement piece is actually them accessing and doing the projects and the PBL. That's how engagement was determined.
And then just the other one is, has there been any reaction from local businesses or community members to any of what's been happening in the schools?
Meaning with PBL?
Yeah, just like has there been any reaction from local businesses or community members to what's been the changes in the schools?
there's a lot of um, yes, there's lots of attention on what's going on in Montgomery Public Schools, but we are intentionally making sure that we are providing our students with quality education and connecting with our business and industry to help them see that schooling is a community effort. It's everybody. It's mom, it's dad, it's businesses, it's schools. We're all on the same team.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Just to recap, we've talked about defined teacher leaders being identified throughout the district to help lead the work. So it's not something that's imposed upon them. We're talking about focus areas of specific kids and even specific teachers and the needs that they may have, and then giving teachers an opportunity to be instructional champions in the work and leading it forward. This is what leadership leverage looks like in action. So we're very appreciative of that. One thing I'll throw out as a question is what shifts when teachers are positioned as instructional leaders for their own peers? What do you identify in that regard?
I think,
Go ahead.
okay, teachers value teachers' opinions. And so sometimes when it's somebody listening to somebody that's actually in the trenches with them, they're more likely to embrace the opinions. And they're actually seeing the evidence of what's happening in that classroom.
And they see teachers as non-threatening. When you have someone from central office, so to speak, they see it more as an evaluative type thing. And of course, our PD department, we have the best job because we're just here to support and help them, not to judge them. So that's one thing that we love about what we get to do. But I think the authenticity of just dealing with everything else, and meaning, the demands in the community with our student behavior, absenteeism, reteaching, retesting, all these things, that just having someone that's actually doing that, it is more powerful.
So you're talking about strengthening classroom prowess and how to present, but also that's an opportunity to start to retain some folks as well. Good job. In terms of your standards of practice, your portrait for graduate, performance tasks across the board, all these things are embedded. So Defined doesn't become a thing that sits on the side. This becomes embedded into the work, alignment with all those pieces and making sure the work goes forward. Clear instructional through lines for teachers and for students. This whole alignment becomes about clarity, not simply about compliance, which is where we actually need to go. Compliance does not get us the type of achievement we want to see in school districts. We have to be in a place where that work becomes part of our culture and the work we actually push forward. Your strategic roles, non-traditional. We're not just talking about teachers. You got library media specialists involved, CTE and impact teams, technology coordinators. All these folks are part of the work and not superfluous to the work, helping to make or break implementation, but they sometimes really get the spotlight. Great job of doing that as well. How do you feel these support roles have made a great impact on your district in terms of the work that's being done?
Well, all three areas have asked for more training. So the fact that you're asking for more means that you're excited, you're doing the work. We would like, as we're moving forward, to pull in another set of lead teachers that will help with these people that are already in the schools, just to strengthening the team, because we know that that's where the real work happens, is have a leadership team within the school, which is composed of, the CTE, the library media, the lead teachers, the tech coordinators, the principal. That's where we're trying to be more strategic in our approach moving forward.
Outstanding. Final slide I have for this part of our discussion in terms of what we've looked at. Your engagement growth is directly tied to leadership clarity, so people understand why you're doing the work, not just because of what it is, but how it can impact what they do every day. Sustained momentum through structured support, that is very evident in your data now as well. I think it's important to understand that systems accelerate consistency, not individuals. If you work as a system, that's how you push the needle forward. You can't do it by yourself. Thank you so much for sharing how your leadership systems, not just individual effort, drive that consistency and bring it to life for kids. Thank you. Now we're going to shift a little bit. We're going to bring everybody back together. take a few steps back and talk about reflecting on both of those district stories and how they coalesce together. So I have some discussion prompts for each of you. Anybody can chime in, and we'll conclude the conversation with these questions. One, what leadership moves are accelerating your instructional quality throughout your district?
I think for us, focusing on tier one instruction. A few years ago, we had a superintendent who would say that we had an inverted pyramid, and meaning the majority of our students were in need of interventions. And so we had to change that thinking, because when you walk into a classroom thinking that the majority of your children need some level of support beyond just tier one instruction, then it says something about expectations. So we had to change expectations and have true tier one instruction, and not just say tier one instruction, but provide frameworks and professional development around what that looks like, and then ongoing coaching with teachers to support them into ensuring that tier one is happening.
Montgomery has similar opportunities for growth with tier one instruction and PBL. But as far as our leaders, it's been 2 years since our leadership, meaning our building leadership, has participated in project-based learning PD. So as we're moving forward, we think with the high turnover that we need to revisit our leadership teams and help them, because whatever message they send out and however they deliver the message to their staff makes all the difference. If I'm excited and positive and I can connect real life to this and I'm portraying that as a leader, that, it has that positive energy that's just going to spread. So that's where we would like to go. And with our new themed academies, I think this is a perfect opportunity to show how this works in that.
Fragmentation can obviously occur when the focus shifts. Where are some places you've identified that might be a concern and something you'll want to pay attention to?
Well, for us, you're working in our middle schools. And so that has been a challenge with our middle schools is an area that we have really focused on the last few years. They have a new instructional superintendent. We're really aligning structures to the district. They're moving at a great rate and great pace. So we're really trying to make sure we start that, scale up the same way we did with our K-5 schools with defined learning by providing the intentional training, targeted integration into the subject matter area, streamlined approach so that we can get everybody on board and understand the expectation that this is not going away. This is part of what we are wanting in our curriculum for our students as a guaranteed lesson or PBL for learning. So it's kind of, fragmented now because we have so many competing priorities. They're good priorities, but we want to make sure that this is just as, as strong of a priority.
I would say Montgomery is also fragmented, not being an individual shift like Dr. Brown said, but just having more intentional on our themed academies and what is expected, the expectation, setting high expectations for this. But I think also focusing on maybe developing some hub schools where this is cross-curricular and other teachers can go to see lessons being modeled or co-teach with, because going to sit to watch someone teach, I go back to, I can read a recipe and I can watch a cooking show, but I'm not going to cook for you. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be good. So you actually have to do it. So if we could have some hubs where teachers are actually planning with each other and co-teaching a lesson together, that is where we're kind of trying to build more of those throughout our district, especially with our district being so large. We need more than just a one professional learning. It has to be ongoing, but it also has to be differentiated because everyone comes in at a different level of understanding and experiences.
Great. That's one more question, and we'll shift to closing up with a charge for everybody who is actually watching our webinar today. If you could talk really quickly about what system level decisions have to be protected in this process. There's certain things that have to be done, but the work itself still needs to take place as well.
Well, I think for Montgomery, we need one voice saying the same thing with the same tone, setting the same expectation. And like I go back again to it's how you deliver the message. You know, teachers, when you demand something of someone, resistance automatically just it's right there because people feel threatened. So I think it's the way we deliver the message, but also hold our teachers and our leaders to a high expectation to make sure this is actually happening because what you permit, you promote. So
I would chime and echo that as well. It's about expectations, and then it's also about accountability. So the expectation is that everyone is implementing to high fidelity. You know, in our school system in the past, you've always had like a program or initiative comes in, and people would kind of water it down to make it the Birmingham way. And what happens is then you lose its effectiveness. And so we want to make sure that what we're doing system wide, and then we're doing it to high levels so that we can see the impact of it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us today. I know I've learned a lot. I'm sure that our attendees have learned a lot. I have a charge, not just for our panel, but for the folks who are watching as well. As you consider the work you're doing in your district right now, think to yourself within the next few minutes. I'm not going to take those minutes. You can write this on your own. Think of one leadership action that you want to take within the next 60 days to strengthen instructional quality in your district. And then once you've done that, share it with some of your colleagues and have some good banter around what that looks like and how it can come to life. Again, I want to thank everybody for attending today. Thank you, obviously, to Defined for hosting our fantastic districts, Montgomery and Birmingham, for displaying their work and talking about how classroom instruction has to evolve to be connected to real life learning. And you're shining examples of what that needs to look like. I'll close with one statement so everybody can carry this with them as well. Strong instructional systems don't happen by accident. They happen when leadership is intentional, distributed, and relentlessly focused on student impact. Let's make sure we're having our kids prepare for the next phase of their lives once they graduate. Getting ready for the next world is not about graduating from high school. It's about a K-12 continuum across the board and preparing them all along the way for what this looks like. We at Defined are happy to be a partner in that process, and we look forward to continued partnerships and new partnerships as they pop up in the months to come. Thank you again. Please reach out to us if you have questions or want to talk about a partnership or what have you. We're here for you as a service. So we thank you again, and everyone have a fantastic afternoon.